Welcome everyone to our Luminary Panel. We're happy to start the year off with our panel's insights for 2026. First, Sharon Van Zeeland, Vice President of Strategy and Corporate Development at Rockwell Automation. Sharon leads global strategy, mergers and acquisitions, and venture investments, driving innovation and growth across industries. And our returning luminary, Peter Coffey, is a veteran technology advisor with over 40 years of experience. He spent 18 years at Salesforce guiding cloud and AI adoption, and now focuses on sustainability and tech strategy through the nonprofit Foundation for Intelligent Life on Earth, which he co-founded. Together, Sharon and Peter will explore the trends shaping 2026 and what it will take to thrive in a rapidly evolving world. Thank you both for joining us today. Let's get straight into it. You've had a chance to look over what we think will be trending in the coming year. So, which key trends do you think CEOs should be considering in the year ahead? Let's start with you, Sharon.
Let's start with the most obvious one, which is artificial intelligence. The change and the acceleration here is very fast, and I think all companies need to think about generative and autonomous systems. So artificial intelligence, when I think about it, really comes down to how do you get more efficient in your own operations as well as help your customers. So it has two pieces to it, and I think just the rate of investment here, when you look at Google, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, they're going to spend between 70 billion and 100 billion in 2025 on capital expenditures in this space. So not only is the technology advancing, but the funding and the capital to support it is coming along with it. So I think it's just really exciting for lots of reasons. So that's the obvious one. The other trends that we're spending time on are the future of energy. When you think about the needs of the data centers and that AI push, energy is going to change. And I think one statistic there that I think a lot about is nuclear energy, believe it or not. They say by 2050, 31 countries have already committed to double their nuclear output. So I think whether it's nuclear, fossil fuels, enhancements, when you think about renewables, all of those spaces from a technology perspective are going to need to change and be innovative. So I think AI, the future of energy, and then the last one is around labor shortages. It's not really a technology trend, but the labor shortage in the developed countries in terms of skills and talent available just due to demographics is reducing. So I think there's some opportunities for technology to come in and work and help people be more efficient, particularly in manufacturing. So I think those are the areas that CEOs should be thinking about now.
That's great. Thank you, Sharon. What about you, Peter?
As we go into 2026, it's clear that there was a misalignment between what people thought AI might magically do for them and what it turns out the real requirement is in terms of fully understanding your process before you automate it and fully connecting to your data if you want the beast to have something on which to feed. And so oddly, going through the year, there was actually a decline in the number of companies that expected to be doing an AI investment in the coming 12 months, but that does not mean that they were less interested. It just means that their understanding of the prerequisites became greater. And so I think the technology trend, it's interesting that the word technology is an ology. It's a study of something. The technology trend is for people to hold up a mirror to themselves and see what is it that we need to automate, not to adopt a technology as a product or service kind of technology, but to have a technology, to have a culture of making our people more effective, making our customers more engaged, dealing with a rapidly changing environment of both AI capability and also geopolitics and also supply chain issues associated with climate. So the technology trend for the year is to be looking outward and around at the environment you're in instead of at the hardware and software that people would like to have you buy from them, and really to be investing in a very focused way in growth of outcome instead of acquisition of capability. I think the Corum trend that maps most directly onto that is the one that's been described as value chain intelligence, and the idea that we're going to look at every step of our process. What are our inputs? What are our processes? What are our crucial resources? What are the outcomes that customers value? That value chain intelligence, I think, really is the most clearly identifiable label for what represents the focus for the coming year.
Moving on to the next question. Of the top 10 disruptive tech trends that Corum has identified for 2026, which ones are you most excited about and why? We'll start with Peter this time.
When we talk about Corum's top 10 disruptive trends, it's important that we emphasize that disruptive. A trend that is merely a continuation of what was already foreseen, well, that's already baked in. People have already made plans. They may have already made prerequisite investments. Recognizing the disruptive trends that are going to perhaps alter plans or refocus investments is really key. And so I appreciate that we're talking about the disruptive trends and not just the trends in a very general, oatmeal kind of way. The three trends that I think are most important are people-centric productivity, value chain intelligence, and health tech continuum. And I'll talk about each of them for just a moment. People-centric productivity is absolutely crucial when we have an environment where graduates from some of the most elite universities are saying, I don't understand. I'm not getting even interviews, let alone offers. What's happening? There's a sense of a broken contract. And at the other end of the labor curve of less skilled workers, there's a question of, is the best I can hope for a chance to train the robot that replaces me? Now, there's a sweet spot in the middle, which is people being brought in for their ability to become a manager of a machine intelligence capability. But that involves an understanding of what's the value that the person is adding to the robot, adding to the algorithm. So people-centric productivity is really important as a way of thinking about what's going to be changing the way you invest in all sorts of things, in hardware, in software, and in talent production. Value chain intelligence is so important, and this is something that really became apparent during the pandemic, when people started noticing how tightly and inflexibly coupled they had become to various sources of key technology. It turns out, for example, that if you want to get oil out of Venezuela, you really need naphtha, which usually has been coming from Russia, to serve as a lubricant for that particularly sticky oil coming out of Venezuela. It's not a simple process of just turn on the faucets. It's a supply chain. And the notion that at every step of the chain, you need to be adding intelligence rather than losing data, falling off of the radar as each step goes on. Not just accumulating a record of what happened, but improving your understanding of what are the requirements, what are the prerequisites, what are the unexpected and unforeseen interactions. That value chain intelligence needs to be a focus more than merely accumulation of data, more than merely hooking up more fire hoses of sensors, but really understanding the flows and the potential risks. Now, kind of separately, the trend of health tech continuum, I think it's become quite clear in the conversations in the US in particular over the Affordable Care Act subsidies that people have a sense that they can't afford their health. And there are so many reasons why that can be explored and maybe changed. It's not about making the existing system work better. It's about asking fundamental questions like, why does your provider own your records? Why do you have to ask your healthcare provider to send your records over to a specialist? Why can't you own and control those? Oh, okay, you can't have custody of your records because you might alter those records to get more favorable health insurance rates or something. Well, how can we avoid that? Well, we can have cryptographic protection through distributed ledger, sometimes referred to generally as blockchain type technologies, so that every patient can be the custodian of their healthcare information and be in charge of who gets to see it and when they get to see it and what the privileges are going to be. So this health tech continuum of having the technology enable changes in the model and not merely improve the performance or lower the cost of the current model, really, I think, represents an enormous opportunity for innovation and therefore for partnership and acquisitions and exits.
Thanks, Peter. Now, Sharon?
So for us, the excitement is really around agentic enablement and using AI in a way that it can design and work together in complex systems for solutions. So for us, and for me particularly, it's around the things that Rockwell's already doing in our Factory Talk analytics. So we have Vision AI, which helps with anomaly detection, and then we have Factory Talk Guardian AI, which is around safety. But those types of systems that can work independently and solve the problems while aiding operators on the floor is a great thing. But in addition, using natural language, the ability for operators to just talk about what the problem is or to communicate with these systems effortlessly is really exciting and critical. I would also say industrial AI just has a lot of applications when you think about digital twin, edge and cloud, all those types of things. And the fact that these systems are coming into fruition more for complex things is just so exciting for us.
Which characteristics make a company an attractive M&A target or strategic partner? Let's go to Sharon first.
Yeah, so for me and for Rockwell and the types of things we're looking at, I think about the 3 Ps. So first of all, proven technology. Has the technology been prototyped? Have we tried it out with a customer? Is there a use case that actually works in the system? So is it proven technology? The second thing is it protected? That means, do we have patents or have we thought about a moat, a competitive moat? So is it protected from being easily copied by others? And then the last P is the proven available market. Is the market size good enough and strong enough to substantiate an investment? And is it growing over time? So we think about those 3 things. Again, proven technology, is it protected? And is the product available market large enough?
Thanks, Sharon. Peter?
Going into 2026, I think it's clear that coming up with new ways of redesigning process and fully integrating, not merely layering on, but fully integrating technologies, sometimes labeled AI, even if that's a terrible label for much of what is actually happening. But bringing those things together is really going to be more important than merely being on the leading edge of any single capability. I think it's really interesting to see that at Consumer Electronics Show, we're seeing major announcements from NVIDIA about a whole new generation of chips. And I've got to wonder what people are thinking if they've been making massive brick and mortar investments to hold racks and racks and racks of CPUs for very capital intensive kind of very general purpose AI, and saying, oh, wait a minute, the core technology of this building has a life cycle of maybe 2 or 3 years. There's a misalignment there. In the past, tech investment was associated with reducing capital, becoming more asset light, being able to focus more on your differentiating intellectual property and your superior knowledge of customer data and customer process. And I think we've kind of fallen away from that over the last few years. And I think there's a real wake-up call going on. So the M&A opportunities that I think are going to be most attractive are going to be who has differentiating knowledge of a particular industry or differentiating ability to provide a better user experience and also a better team effectiveness and team building and talent pipeline nurturing environment that's going to be the real success factor in the economy that we're in now.
Great insights. Thank you, Sharon and Peter, for joining us today. We're looking forward to working with you in the new year.